Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride, and I sit here in beautiful, breezy Escazú, Costa Rica, where it's lovely right now, and I am recording this to post for you on Sunday, the 19th of April in the year 2026. And I can't believe I just said it's the 19th of April because it hardly feels like April began. So, wow. Wow. Lots of wows because I think this past week was really not easy. Yeah, I'm just going to say it. I think it was hard. I can say this wasn't easy. It was hard. I think this week was hard. And, whenever we have a cluster of planets, as I spoke of last week and I spoke of on Instagram the other day, whenever we have a cluster like 6 planets in Chiron, call it 7 planets, if you will, it doesn't let up. It's just this insistent, consistent, relentless energy in one area of the zodiac. And it's not really finished, okay? We have still a lot of energy that is very present in one sector of the zodiac, and that's Aries, as you know. But things are moving and things are changing. And first, though, I want to talk about what that was like. And, remember Wednesday, the 15th, was the moon entering Aries in the morning and then bam, 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 all day. Hit Mercury, then hit Neptune, then hit Mars. And then last thing before I went to bed anyway was that it hit Saturn. And it was 10:38 p.m. Eastern time, so that's a little early for my bedtime. But that might have been, I think it was Tuesday night. I went to bed at like 9:15 because I was already feeling it. Mercury had already gotten into Aries just as I was going to bed, and I had to get some sleep because it's been kind of a sleepless week, 6 hours one night, 5.5 hours another night, so Aries is a lot of fire, it's a lot of energy, it's a lot of big energy, and it's a lot of initiation energy. And what I want to say is that when I woke up on Wednesday morning, it was intense. I woke up, okay, so I went to bed really early Tuesday night, and I woke up within a good amount of sleep Wednesday morning, having had sleep, but I woke up and I was anxious. And I thought, this isn't going to be comfortable to live with all day. So what I did was I got up and I went right to my meditation. And in that meditation, I said, I know what I have to do in order to manage this energy today within my body, within my being. In order to manage this today, I've got to spend the day as if I'm at a meditation retreat. And so on Wednesday, I meditated 4 times. The first one that I did was about 45 minutes. The second one was an hour and 15 minutes. The third one was an hour. And the last one was about a half an hour. And throughout the day, I would stop. I finished the meditation, then do some work that I had to get done and write emails and phone calls and things and stuff, and then went into another meditation. Then I'd come out and have lunch and then do some more work and then go into another meditation. The third one was a walking meditation, and it was really very good. But this is what it took me to get through the day. And I'm a Marsy person. I'm a Sun Mars, and so you would think I would respond very well to this energy, but it was really very complicated, and I felt that feeling of powerlessness you get when things seem to be running away with you and you can't keep up. And so I said, I'm just going to do this meditation. I'm going to just meditate through my day and see how it feels. And it got me through. And not only that, I felt great. By the end of the day, I felt great. I just cleared the cobwebs, cleared the decks, cleared the emotions. Everything moved smoothly once I did that. And then on Thursday, I meditated 3 times. Usually it's 1 and then like a half an hour one. So it's really 2. But I was so caught up because I woke up again on Thursday. And in some ways I felt worse on Thursday than I did on Wednesday. Even though there were so many conjunctions on Wednesday. Well, then the sun conjunct Chiron, and then we geared up for that new moon. And so I just had to keep it going because that was the only way I felt I could get through it. And it made a huge difference in my days and in my life, and I just felt more empowered and more connected, and it was really actually quite beautiful, and my energy really changed as a result of doing all that meditation. By the time Friday came, I was back to normal. Friday, by the time I got up, even though the new moon was very, it was 5:52 a.m. in my zone. So and then the moon went void, and then the moon had already conjunct Chiron, and the sun had already conjunct Chiron the day before, and I felt a real clearing on Friday morning. There were some glitches right before the moon left to go into Taurus, but I felt pretty much stabilized after all of that intense energy. How did you guys do? What did you do to get yourself through this? You can always drop me an email, info@thegoldenastrologer.com, or deb@debmcbride.com, or, reach me on Instagram, The Golden Astrologer, and tell me how you felt. What did you do? I did a video on Instagram the other day. I explained some of it, and wrote also in my stories that I thought this was very, very intense energy, and then we really needed some. It was extraordinary. This was extraordinary, and therefore it took extraordinary means to get through it. And so when a person says I meditated 4 times one day and then 3 times the next, that's 7 meditations in 24 hours. That's like, yeah, that's an extraordinary task to get through something like this. And thank God for meditation, right? So that helped me tremendously. But also Thursday we had the Mercury conjunct Neptune, and that really lent itself to meditation. So thankfully there was that energy that was very present. It was very disruptive, I felt. It was hard, it was a little harsh, it was just relentless. And now we're on the other side of that, but we've got other stuff today and tomorrow that's still very intense. And that would be Mars conjuncting Saturn. Now we've got Mars and Saturn and Mercury all together. And about 15 minutes ago, Mars conjunct Saturn in my time zone. Well, yeah, in wherever time zone you are, it's already done because it's 6:44 p.m. Eastern time, and it's already 5 o'clock here. So that would have been 4:44 my time. And so that Mars Saturn, I felt that yesterday, today, and these again were days where I did not sleep as well as I would have liked to, and I felt that, Saturn, whenever things cross Saturn, Mercury's about to cross Saturn. The moon crossed Saturn the other night. Now we got the Mars crossing Saturn today. This feels inflammatory, and I felt that during the week too. I felt that Wednesday, Thursday, it inflamed. And it wasn't like I was yelling at people and stuff, just my body felt inflamed, my jaw felt inflamed, my hand felt inflamed, my system felt inflamed. And Saturn in Aries is inflammation, but it's also Mars, conjuncting Saturn. This to me felt like defeatist energy, and that's the nature of Saturn. When things are crossing Saturn, it taps into the darker side of Saturn, which is that feeling of defeat. Now we know Saturn is very necessary for structure and achievement and work and making something happen, very practical in the world, and Saturn's good for those things. But when things just keep passing over Saturn, in Aries, where Saturn doesn't like to be, it is inflammatory, but it's also defeatist. Saturn in Aries is like, meh, you'll never do that. Give it up. And there was a lot of that subconscious chatter of, why don't you just give up? And that's the devil. That is the devil. That is the devil on your shoulder, like in those old cartoons. Give up. You'll never win this. Give it up. It's never going to happen for you. You can't achieve that. What do you think you are? Who do you think you are? And quite frankly, that was loud. And yesterday I really felt the strong defeatist energy. Now, if I didn't feel that, I wouldn't be able to report back to you and say, hey, did you feel that defeatist energy? I wouldn't be sitting. I would be sitting here. What are you talking about? Defeatist energy? What are you talking about? That was a breeze. No. Whenever Saturn gets hit with something like that, and Mars is part of that. Mars is Mars. It's rough. It's the warrior. It comes storming in. But when it hits Saturn, Saturn's going, where do you think you're storming off to? What kind of war do you think you're going to win? And it's that whisper of the subconscious that just does not let up. And now that it's like we've passed it today, we're done with Mars. But what's going to happen is tomorrow, Mercury is going to conjunct Mars and Saturn, and it's going to be in that in-between place. So Mercury is gearing up to conjunct Saturn at 7:22 a.m. tomorrow Eastern Time, which would be 5:22 my time, Central Standard. And then Mercury is going to conjunct Mars at 5:45 p.m. Eastern Time, which will then be 3:45 p.m. my time. And so that Mercury is going to be sandwiched, and that is called besieged. Sandwiched between Mars and Saturn, or really Saturn and then Mars, because now that Mars is finished conjuncting Saturn, it's moving past it. It's going faster than Saturn. And I definitely feel some release from that, but it is not comfortable. And if you felt irritable, if you felt anger, if you felt like you couldn't control your anger, you were ruminating and irritable and witchy and nasty and not witchy in the fun sense, not witchy in the Venus Pluto sense, but witchy in the Mars Saturn sense. Like, it was really, really, I think, very complicated. And this does not let up, and we have to say, I hear you, mind, and I'm not giving in to you. I hear you chattering and saying, who do you think you are? And then thinking about the past and, oh, she was such a jerk to me, and wow. And that's the nature of, Mars being inflamed and touching Saturn, which is also inflamed. And so this morning, yesterday, my beautiful little cat, she went out to the main garden in Dos Rios here, and she walked over the bridge, and I'm like, what are you doing? You can't come out here. And not because she used to live out there. She used to live out there and in the houses there, and then before she came to me. But she's laying in the grass there because I don't have a lot of grass in my garden. There's not a lot of sun. There's a lot of shade. There's big trees. There's not a lot of sun. And so the grass doesn't grow. So she loves laying in the cool grass there. And I'm like, oh, this is very sweet. But I wouldn't leave her alone out there. And sure enough, today, she decided to go walking back out there. And I'm like, all right, she was fine yesterday. Well, moments later, it was, and that flippin' Camaro, I came running out, and she was running over the bridge, her tail all like a brush, and I'm like, what happened, baby? And like, who did you get into a kerfuffle with? And my friends were out there saying, don't worry, she's okay, nothing happened to her. And Alejandro says, it was just theater. But it was a cat fight. It sounded like a cat fight. It was a cat fight. And when I was standing there at my gate, I said, oh, it's theater. I said, which cat? He said, Camaro. I said, of course. Bully. But the poor thing, she went and sat on the patio and sat on a chair under the tablecloth and hid, because then Camaro came walking around later, and he was looking for Monica, who had come into my house. And yeah, you know all the players now. And so, and he's a bully. So she was hiding from him, and she stayed under there even long after he left, and I was sitting on the patio working. So, but this is that's that Mars Saturn. It's nasty. And I hope no one said anything abusive or mean or cruel to you, or behaved in such a way, because Mars Saturn can be abusive. And it's someone suppressing your expression. It's someone suppressing your liveliness. It's someone suppressing your energy or something. And for me, it was like, oh, lack of sleep. Let me drag myself through this day and not listen to my subconscious talking to me, too much. But that's an abusive aspect. And wherever you are in the world, I hope that you did not suffer anything untoward in your life, because that whole exchange this morning, yeah, that was Mars Saturn. Even though it just happened a few minutes ago, and the exchange was this morning, it was definitely a very harsh energy. But Mercury, the planet of communication, being sandwiched between Saturn and Mars tomorrow, is going to tie it all together again. And it's a long 10 hours or so between the first conjunction of Mercury to Saturn and then the second one of Mercury to Mars. So I expect tomorrow to possibly be irritable, because Mercury, remember, Mercury's beep, 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 and talking, right? And hopefully those voices of, Saturn's nastiness isn't going to repeat itself tomorrow, the voice of Saturn. But Mars and Saturn are going to get reconnected because of Mercury tomorrow. So just maintain your peace, your cool, your grounded feeling. If you can, avoid too much talking to people tomorrow, it might be better to just sort of keep your head down and do your work, because that's what Saturn wants anyway. It wants us to work and stay focused and achieve things. But Mercury can come in and be a gossip, especially since the moon's in Gemini, which is gossipy. And Mercury rules Gemini, and so it's ruling the moon right now. And 12:19 a.m. tomorrow morning, the Mercury moon sextile, which is a nice pleasant aspect, is going to happen. And now Mercury is receiving the moon, as it did the other day when the moon was in Aries, but it's now in sextile, and the moon is sextiling Saturn and Mars and doing the same thing, except much more smoothly. It's not smacking everybody on the head. Remember, this is Aries, as it marches through Aries. And so this is Mercury's time with the moon in Gemini. So it is a complicated arrangement that we have right now. And I expect that Mercury may be a little bit of an irritable source while it's stepping through tomorrow between Saturn and Mars. Keep your cool. Stay grounded. Try to keep your head free of chatter, the mental chatter, and don't get flippy. Don't be in that Gemini two sides of the coin thing. Like, what did she mean by that? What was that about? What was that comment about? Try to just chill those out. Again, that's more subconscious nonsense. Just stay out of the past. Stay out of chatter in your head. Stay out of people's ways. You're thinking, Deb, it's only Mercury. But it's Mars, and Mars is still very close to Saturn. And it's going to kind of reveal itself some more tomorrow. So if we've been dealing with the Chiron wound, there's a little bit of, the wounded words that could come up again tomorrow. So just be aware of that. But this week we still do have some energies that are shifting and changing. So there's a lot still going on this week that won't be going on next week. So when I sit here on my podcast next Sunday, I won't have as much to say to you about the heated energies, and I may have to review what had happened in the days prior quite a bit, because this week promises a lot of energy. Now, tonight, the sun is moving into Taurus, and that's 9:39 p.m. Eastern Time, and that is going to be yet one more planet leaving Aries. So the moon left Aries the other day, Friday, went into Taurus, now is in Gemini, and the sun is leaving tonight, and then that's going to let things up a little bit. So Mercury, Mars, Saturn, Neptune, Chiron, still a lot of energy, in the sign of Aries. But after tomorrow, that heavy Aries energy should start to let up a little bit, because Mercury has passed. And remember what I said, I think a couple months ago, when Mercury was retrograde and, it was moving, and I said it was still going to have to cross that place between Saturn and Neptune, and it was going to be the last of the inner planets to cross. And remember that I said, the sun was going to do it, and then Mars was going to do it, and then finally Mercury, because it had been so slow because of the retrograde. So it stayed in Pisces for so long, and it finally moved over, went into that zero Aries point the other day, and now it's really just trying to get on its feet after, conjuncting Saturn tomorrow and then Mars. So the last of it is tomorrow, and then things get a little lighter as these planets pass away from that Saturn-Neptune zone. Nobody's coming back there except the moon once a month. But once the moon is not experiencing all the heat of Mars and all the other planets passing over that same point, it's just going to be like it passes over those planets anyway every month, no matter where they are. So I think once we get past tomorrow, it's going to be a lot less stress. Now, the sun going into Taurus is very lovely, although the sun doesn't rule Taurus. It's slower, it's more green, it's more grounded, it's earthy, it's really genuinely softer. And so now we're moving into a softer energy. And Venus is still in Taurus. She's in her favorite sign, one of her favorite signs. And in fact, Venus on Thursday this week, the 23rd, she will conjunct Uranus. And that will be Thursday, 9:58 p.m. Eastern Time. And she will do that, and later that night, really, she will go into Gemini. But it'll really be midnight Friday morning for the Eastern Time Zone and 9:03 p.m. for the Pacific Time Zone on Thursday. Now, once she leaves Taurus, she's no longer in her favorite sign, and she's a little bit flirty, flippy, gossipy, chatty in Gemini. And that's the nature of Venus in Gemini. Now, it's a little bit of a revolving door. She does, want to flirt with this one and want to flirt with that one, and who's gonna be my date this week, and then next week somebody else, and maybe 5 different people this week. Okay, she could be like a revolving door. And I've met women with Venus and Gemini, and it particularly pertains to women, especially because it's that feminine energy. And I've met women who are like a revolving door. So it's very interesting that she's going to conjunct Uranus on Thursday night, and then she's going to enter Gemini, and then Uranus is going to go follow her into Gemini. So Venus is sort of swinging the door open, that revolving door, and saying, hey, Uranus, come on for the ride. And Uranus is going to join her in Gemini on Saturday the 25th, this coming Saturday, a week from now. And that is going to be a whole other thing. That is 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time. Uranus will enter Gemini for the next 7-ish years. We are saying goodbye to Taurus. This is a big deal and is the biggest movement of this week ahead. Okay? Yes, Mercury getting sandwiched, besieged between Saturn and Mars. Because it's between two technical, what the ancient astrologers called malefics. That's one thing. But at the end of the week, we have Uranus going into Gemini. And by the time I return to this podcast on Sunday the 26th, Uranus will be in Gemini, and we will have a whole host of other things to discuss, because this is a generational thing. Uranus went into Gemini during World War II. That was the last time Uranus was in Gemini. I have siblings who were born at the end of the 1940s, and they have Uranus in Gemini. And that's something really powerful, because Uranus is all about the communication, technological world, right? So yeah, Gemini is about communication, but Uranus there is going to boost technology and communication like we've never seen before. We're going to just have to put like a patch on our forehead, and we're going to be able to talk and text each other without the phone. Something brand new. But, Gemini's an air sign, and it's ruled by Mercury, as I just said. So this is an interesting thing, because we've got the moon in Gemini right now. Mercury's very busy tomorrow, ruling that moon in Gemini. And then at the end of the week, Venus goes into Gemini, and then Uranus goes into Gemini. And this is like lots of Mercury energy, and talking and thinking and writing and speaking, and it's so different than what we've been used to all these years. And even though email made our life very different years and years ago, 3 decades ago, and texting and phones and everything changed over the last 20 years, it's going to be a very deep, profound shift in the way we communicate. And it is going to talk to Pluto, because Pluto's in Aquarius, an air sign, and they are going to be talking to each other. And we're gonna have a discussion in these next weeks. I'm going to tell you about what July is bringing, because there's going to be sort of this round robin of of planets sextiling one another, all the outer planets talking to one another. And can you hear the chacharas? Do you hear them? They sound like space aliens, don't they? Sound like the aliens are landing. Those are the insects. They're like crickets and cicadas. And this time of year, before it starts to rain, they're out in the morning, and it's a frequency, right? So there's this frequency that's playing. So now I'm talking to you about the frequency of Uranus going into Gemini, trining Pluto, talking to Pluto, and then there'll be sextiles with Neptune and then Jupiter, and this is all going to happen in July, which is very exciting. So I think it's positive, bright energy, but it's a lot. It's a lot. It's Uranus and Pluto are interesting when they travel together, and they don't often travel together because of how slow they are. And those of us born in the 60s have the Uranus-Pluto conjunction for the most part, and mid to late 60s. And then those of us born in like 2011, 2012, well, those are your teenage kids, they have the Uranus-Pluto square. And then there was a sextile in there somewhere. But between the 60s and 2011. And then now we're going to see the trine between the two of them, which is very smooth flowing energy and brings lots of opportunities. So opportunities to communicate differently, opportunities to work with each other differently, opportunities to just think differently. And so this is a big deal. This is a big deal, and we'll be talking about it a lot. But you can purchase my year ahead for 2026 video if you haven't seen it, because it's still available and you can still get it on my website. And you just have to click book online on my thegoldenastrologer.com website, and it will take you to all the things you can book, whether you want to book a session with me or you want to pick up that video. And if you're a little confused about it, write to me, deb@debmcbride.com, info@thegoldenastrologer.com, and I will send you the link to purchase it. And it's really, really good when we talk about Uranus going to Gemini, and talking to Pluto. It's so funny. It's like maybe the aliens really are going to land. This is my chorus in the background of my podcast, right? In the meantime, the sun in Taurus will crawl through Taurus, as any planet does, because Taurus is a slower moving sign. Everything sort of crawls through there. And even though the sun is going into Taurus tonight, it's going to square Pluto on Saturday. So it's almost a week that it's going to take to get to 5 degrees, which is more than a degree a day. And the sun squaring Pluto is another opportunity for transformation, and that is going to be 12:33 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday the 25th. And so that's going to be very deep and profound, as always, whenever the sun and Pluto meet up in a challenge. That is a challenge. And the moon will be in Leo then, and so again, it's going to talk to all the planets that are in Aries. It will trine Saturn, trine Mars, trine Mercury, and so the moon is very involved. It's like bang, bang, bang again. All those planets. it does provide us the opportunity to initiate some more too, all that fiery energy, the moon in Leo. And then that's Friday the 24th. So we have a lively week ahead. And I really do believe once we get past tomorrow, if you can get past your subconscious getting in the way today and tomorrow, then you're going to be doing okay. Telling you every time it tells you can't, say, yes, I can. I will, and I shall. And that's the confidence of Aries. It's, yes, of course I can. Of course I will. And I shall. And I'm going to warrior my way through this. And right now we have to be a little bit of a mental warrior so that we don't allow these stray thoughts to come in and interfere with our good intentions. Keep your intentions solid. Keep them strong. Keep them moving forward in the right direction. And please, if something gets irritable and starts to poke at you, like your subconscious mind, go into a meditation, go for a walk, do a walking meditation, do something that is going to get you distracted from that chatter of the subconscious. So this is where Saturn wants to kind of come in and take you down. But it's also showing you where you probably need to do a little more work, where you have to be disciplined. Saturn is great with discipline. So it's showing you, okay, I'm going to be very disciplined, focus on what's in front of me and not allow this, distraction coming from stray thoughts and lack of confidence. If you are getting all of those thoughts that say I can't, then that's where you got to do the work with your confidence and say, no, I'm not going to accept that. Right, chacharas? They're singing up a storm out there. Okay, so big news. Uranus moving into Gemini this week. This is the last of the planets changing signs. We had Saturn change signs. We have Neptune change signs. The slower moving planets. And this is the last one. So the completion of the transitions is next Saturday. And then we're in a whole new path and a whole new deal. Okay? If you'd like to find out where all of this is happening for you in your astrological chart, certainly contact me for a session. thegoldenastrologer.com, click book online, and you can set up a session with me. If you'd like to join me in Reiki, that could be very soothing during these jangled nerve time, and that's something that could be really helpful during these weeks ahead. And I welcome all appointments. Would love to sit with you in session, and you can also join me if you want to do longer work with me in expansion mentoring. I thank you so much for listening and being with me this week. It's going to be very exciting. I'd love to hear your stories. Let me know, and be well this week. Grateful to each and every one of you for listening. Blessings to all. Have an amazing week. Thank you.